What is going on, guys? My name is Stuber, and I'm here to break down this 9-game NBA slate on Draftkings and PrizePicks.com. If you guys are new here, welcome. If you guys are a returning viewer, welcome back. Of course, guys, I will be live streaming an hour before lock, so while this is a great primer for you guys to get started on the slate, it is very vital to be here an hour before lock. It'll be right here on this very channel an hour before, so a full hour from 5 p.m. Central Time to 6 p.m. Central Time. I'll be breaking down all the latest breaking news. So with there being 9 games on the slate, there's going to be a plethora of injuries between now and then. I'll be breaking it down further over there, and after I get done doing that, I will answer as many questions as I possibly can within that time frame to help you guys create the best possible lineups you can today. We've been doing it pretty damn well these last couple days since returning from Thanksgiving break. A lot of that has to do with those live streams. So if you guys could drop a subscription, like this video. Let's try to get this video up to over 8 likes today. And I always try to get to 1 new subscriber every day. Trying to get to 100 subscribers by the end of the year. Only have a month left, so we're under a bit of a time crunch right now. So if you guys could assist me in doing that, that'd be greatly appreciated. But let's just jump right into this 9-game slate. So we will start off with the Orlando Magic versus the Philadelphia 76ers, a 208.5 over under. The Sixers are currently 15-point favorites. So the Magic, they're going to be shorthanded yet again. They're going to be without Cole Anthony, Markelle Fultz, Michael Carter-Williams, Etuan Moore, and then Mo Bamba and Terrence Ross are both questionable. You know, Robin Lopez started in place of Mo Bamba last game, ended up playing 31.5 minutes. So he would be an interesting play if Mo Bamba were to miss again. He is only $3,300. He's a pretty decent per minute producer. Not the best matchup, but given his price, he's definitely in play if Mo Bamba were to miss. Terrence Ross, he played just part of that game last time out. So if these guys end up missing, I think guys like Wendell Carter Jr., Jalen Suggs, Franz Wagner, who are already viable, would become even better plays. But there is some pretty severe blowout risk here. They are 15-point dogs traveling to the Philadelphia 76ers with a Joel Embiid that is not playing on a minutes limit since returning after missing 9 games. So very scary spot for the for both sides, really. But that's pretty much my thoughts on the Orlando Magic side. On the Sixers, they are going to be without Ben Simmons. Shake Milton is questionable, but he did go through shoot around today. Usually when you go through shoot around, that means that you are likely going to be playing in that game. So I'm expecting him to return to the lineup, at least the off the bench in this game. He was out last time out. We did just see this 76ers team go into double overtime 2 nights ago. Joel Embiid ended up playing 45 minutes, 35 minutes of regulation, and then both the overtimes. But he was very dominant in that time. You know, if you told me ahead of time that this game was going to play down to the wire and that Embiid would get his full complement of minutes, he would be the best play on the entire slate. But with there being such severe foul trouble, his projection is very volatile. The outcomes are very wide. So, I mean, Joel Embiid could definitely get it done through 3 quarters, which is likely what he's going to need to do to pay off this price tag. But that just means he's a great tournament option. And then I'm not really considering anybody else on the Sixers team just because they are priced up as if these guys are out because they've been dealing with so many injuries. And so everybody's prices are inflated, and that's just not the case anymore. They are nearly at full strength just without Ben Simmons. Move over to the Denver Nuggets versus the Miami Heat, a 208 over under. The Heat are currently 7.5-point favorites. The Nuggets are going to be without Michael Porter Jr., who's going to be out for the year, which is just sad to see. They just paid him an absolute bag, too, with a ton of guaranteed money. So Nuggets making pretty big mistakes out here. They're also going to be without Jamal Murray and PJ Dozier. Nikola Jokic and Bones Highland are both questionable. So I did just get an alert that Mo Bamba and Terrence Ross went through shoot around, so they are going to be game time decisions. Like I just mentioned in an earlier situation, usually when you go through shoot around, that means you're probably going to end up playing. So not really going to be on these Orlando Magic guys as much as I originally anticipated in tournaments. Really tough road matchup for the Denver Nuggets here against the Miami Heat, one of the better defensive teams in the league. I actually think that Jokic is probably going to sit in this game. The Heat are 7.5-point favorites, and if Jokic were to be healthy, I think that line would become quite a bit tighter. So I think that line indicates that Jokic is probably going to sit here again. And you know, everybody's already priced up. Even Jeff Green is priced up to 4,600 now. So I'm not really considering anybody on this Nuggets team. Move over to the Miami Heat. Markieff Morris is out. Nikola Jokic just pushed the absolute shit out of him, I guess. Jimmy Butler, Tyler Hero are questionable. We saw Tyler Hero miss last game due to soreness. Now it's a illness for him. Gabe Vincent and Max Struss, in his absence, ended up closing, and they both closed over Duncan Robinson. So I thought that was worth mentioning just because they are so inexpensive. Struss is $3,300, and if I can find, and Gabe Vincent is $3,800. So definitely secondary options. There is more value plays on the slate, and more will open up. So not really in consideration for me. But I will say that if Jimmy Butler also misses this game, it would open up some of the best plays on the entire slate. It would open up Bam Adebayo, Kyle Lowry. This game would likely play closer if they were out and Nikola Jokic was out on the other side. But we're going to have to monitor that injury situation. That is one of the first games of the slate, so we should be able to know that well ahead of time. Move over to the Charlotte Hornets versus the Chicago Bulls, the best game environment on the entire slate. A 225.5 over under. The Bulls are currently 5.5 point favorites. Mason Plumlee is out again for the Charlotte Hornets, and they have been absolutely flying without Mason Plumlee on the court, whether they play small or they're playing with PJ Washington. When Washington was out and Plumlee was off the court, they most of the time would end up playing small ball with Miles Bridges at the 5. They don't need to do that anymore because PJ Washington, he's a quicker, smaller, undersized 5, so he's going to continue to get bigger minutes as well. This Chicago defense is like 5th in the league in defensive rating, so it is a tougher defensive matchup, but defense doesn't matter nearly as much when you're flying around so much. So I love LaMelo Ball today. I think he's going to go significantly under-owned. He's been playing much bigger minutes as of recently. Ever since he started complaining about his minutes, I think Miles Bridges, Terry Rozier, Gordon Hayward are all in play as well. Probably prefer going down to the cheaper range to guys like Kelly Oubre, PJ Washington. Worth mentioning, Miles Bridges didn't play in the fourth quarter last game against the Houston Rockets. They played Kelly Oubre over him because he was playing so well, but Kelly Oubre has been very, very good in these small ball lineups. So moving forward, going to continue to keep getting some exposure to Kelly Oubre. The Chicago Bulls are going to be without Patrick Williams, but they are pretty much at full strength right now. The Hornets are 7th in defensive rating, 3rd in pace, so a very, very good spot for the Chicago Bulls. Unfortunately, they are all healthy and priced appropriately, so choosing between Levine, DeMar DeRozan, and Vucevic is pretty tough, but they are all in such great matchups. I probably prefer Vucevic the most, but he does come at a very stacked center position today. But again, all three of these guys are more than viable. They're going to be playing big minutes, big pace up spot against a very, very poor defense. Lonzo Ball and Alex Caruso, more of secondary plays for me. Move over to the Oklahoma City Thunder versus the Houston Rockets, one of my favorite games to stack on the night at 215.5 over under. The Rockets are currently 2.5 point favorites. The Thunder are going to be without Kenrich Williams. They are healthy for the most part, but their prices are suppressed because they are constantly in blowouts and they lose minutes a lot of these times. I mean, as of lately, they've been a bit better at that. So, guys like Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, Josh Giddey, Lou Dort, especially in a great matchup against the Houston Rockets, is somewhere where I want to be. The Rockets are 1st in pace, so a massive pace up spot for the Thunder here, and they are also a bottom 10 defense. So great spot and opportunity for the Oklahoma City Thunder. I love Shai Gilgeous-Alexander and Lou Dort. Josh Giddey, Darius Bazley, more of tournament options. But yeah, Lou Dort at $5,400 is pretty crazy. His offensive role has been skyrocketing. Even when he's not shooting well in some of these games, he's still paying off his price tag because he's playing pretty big minutes in these games that are competitive. Move over to the Houston Rockets. Jalen Green is out. Again, this game should be competitive, so these guys should they're actually too cheap. They are also one of these teams that are so bad that they are dealing with so many blowouts, and it cuts their minutes down, which cuts down their production, which cuts down their prices. But in a game that should be competitive, especially without Jalen Green, they should get their full complement of minutes here. So Christian Wood, Kevin Porter Jr., Jae'Sean Tate are all like core pieces for me as of right now. Absolutely love Christian Wood and Kevin Porter Jr. As I go through this slate and as I was building lineups, I find myself building more of these mid-range lineups rather than stars and scrubs because with DraftKings pricing up all these stars so high, I'm not really getting to them nearly as much, and unless more value opens up, I'm likely going to be building in that mid-range where guys like Christian Wood or maybe one of the Chicago Bulls guys ends up being one of my highest owned highest priced guy on my lineup. Move over to the Indiana Pacers versus the Minnesota Timberwolves at 216.5 over under. The Timberwolves are currently 4-point favorites. The Pacers, they are going to be without TJ Warren. The prices have fallen way too far. More of these mid-range guys that I'm interested in getting to: Domantas Sabonis, Malcolm Brogdon, Caris LeVert especially. Caris LeVert is down to $5,300. He has been dealing with so many blowouts. The Pacers as a whole have been dealing with so many blowouts that their prices have absolutely plummeted. And these guys are just way too cheap. Caris LeVert at $5,300 might be the best point per dollar play on the entire slate. Absolutely love him. Pair him with Luka Dort, and you have two pretty good value plays already. And I think Brogdon and Sabonis are in very good matchups. Very good rebounding matchup against the Minnesota Timberwolves. The Timberwolves allow the highest offensive rebound percentage in the entire NBA at 30.6%. So, a lot of good putback opportunities. So Sabonis definitely in play. Brogdon likes to get rebounds as well. Miles Turner, I guess, is in play because of that, but really like these Indiana Pacers tonight. Move over to the Minnesota Timberwolves. They are going to be without Patrick Beverley. And then right before I started recording this video, Jaden McDaniels and Jared Vanderbilt are now questionable. So without those two guys, Jared Vanderbilt has been a very, very good rebounder. So, the rebounding numbers are going to be spread out, but Karl-Anthony Towns is probably my favorite spend-up option on the slate. That's north of the Chicago Bulls guys. And if those guys were to miss time, we're probably going to see a ceiling in minutes from Towns tonight, just because if this game is competitive, Naz Reid not only will play the backup five, but he'll also play a lot of minutes at the four, assuming McDaniels and Jared Vanderbilt end up missing that game, because we've seen it in the past where they've played those Naz Reid and Karl-Anthony Towns lineups, and it would make sense against a jumbo front court in the Indiana Pacers. So, Naz Reid isn't going to be taking all the backup 5 minutes. Towns is probably just going to play like upwards of 38 minutes in this game, where Naz Reid's going to play the rest of the backup five, but also play minutes at the four, could possibly start. We saw Taurean Prince start last game in replacement of Patrick Beverley. He is priced down to $3,200. He could grab the start again, play 30-plus minutes again, especially if we're going to be without Jaden McDaniels and or Jared Vanderbilt. Malik Beasley will also get into the rotation as well, but need to monitor the situation on those guys. Move over to the Cleveland Cavaliers versus the Dallas Mavericks at 207.5 over under. The Mavericks are currently 5.5 point favorites. The Cavaliers are going to be without Colin Sexton. Dean Wade is doubtful, and then Cedi Osman is questionable. The team is nearly at full strength right now. And nobody's on a minutes limit, so they're priced up because they've been dealing with so many injuries. But now that they're, like I mentioned, they're pretty much at full strength, and nobody's on a minutes limit, so they're probably priced a bit too much for me, although it is a pretty decent matchup in the Dallas Mavericks. I suppose I don't mind Evan Mobley. He should, at some point, is going to return to playing 38 minutes a game, so $6,700 if he were to play 38 minutes would probably be too cheap, but I'm probably avoiding the Cleveland Cavaliers team as a whole. I think there's better plays on the slate. Move over to the Dallas Mavericks. Frank Ntilikina and Willie Cauley-Stein are both out. So without Willie Cauley-Stein, I'm expecting Dwight Powell to probably slide into the starting lineup, with Maxi Kleber getting an extended run off the bench. Maxi Kleber has been very, very good recently, but Jalen Brunson should be returning to this game, which really kills some of the value from guys like Luka Doncic, Kristaps Porzingis, and then Maxi Kleber. Kleber has been closing in these games recently without Jalen Brunson, but with Brunson likely returning, we will probably see Brunson. But now that Willie Cauley-Stein is also out, we can see Kleber and Jalen Brunson in the closing lineup. So Maxi Kleber probably the only guy from this team that I am considering, but more of a secondary value option. Move over to the Washington Wizards versus the San Antonio Spurs at 214.5 over under. The Wizards are currently 3.5 point favorites. The Wizards are going to be without Thomas Bryant and Rui Hachimura. Daniel Gafford in back-to-back games has seen more minutes than Montrezl Harrell. We know that him and Harrell split all 48 of those center minutes while the games are competitive. So if Daniel Gafford's going to continue to play 27 minutes, he was nearly a 1.3 fantasy point per minute player last year. He has been very, very good recently. Doesn't necessarily need the blocks. 2 games ago, he had 8 blocks, and it kind of buoyed his production, but didn't need that last time out. Had a more normal game for him. But yeah, if he's going to continue to play that many minutes, I love him at $4,700. He's going to continue to be very, very low owned, and that's eating into Montrezl Harrell's minutes. So over here on Prize Picks, one of my favorite plays is the under Montrezl Harrell. Now, that's not the official pick that I'm giving away, but if you want additional picks to the official pick that I give away a bit further into this video, Montrezl Harrell under 29 fantasy points looks very, very nice to me, because if he's only going to play like 20 minutes a game now, it's really hard for him to get to 29 fantasy points despite how good he is on a permanent basis. Move over to the San Antonio Spurs. Zach Collins is out, and actually, as soon as I started recording this video, Doug McDermott and Devin Vassell, who were originally questionable, have also been ruled out. Both those guys ended up missing last game, and Keita Bates-Diop ended up starting in place of Doug McDermott. Lonnie Walker played limited minutes off the bench. We did just get big news, so let me talk about that after this. So what it did, we didn't really see extra minutes off the bench from guys like Lonnie Walker. Keita Bates-Diop hardly played as well. What it did is give guys like DeJounte Murray, Derek White, Keldon Johnson, and Jakob Poeltl even more secure minutes. So all four of these guys are in a very good spot considering how thin this team is going to be, how condensed the minutes are going to be. The Washington Wizards are not the same team as we've seen in years past. They are playing a lot slower and a lot better defense. They've been playing as a top 5 defense so far this year, but this game is supposed to be a big pretty competitive. A 3.5 point spread in favor of the Wizards. The Spurs are at home. So Keldon Johnson at $5,800. I absolutely love him. All these guys played high 30s minutes last game when both those guys were out. He played 38 minutes last time, and now he gets pretty much the same matchup against the Washington Wizards. So I love the over on Keldon Johnson. That's going to be my first official play over here on Prize Picks. I love the over 27 fantasy points. You could also add Derek White and Jakob Poeltl to that if you wanted to. If you wanted a 5 pick, I'm going to give you one official pick outside of Keldon Johnson, but if you guys want a 5 pick, you guys can tail the under Montrezl Harrell 29, over Jakob Poeltl 31 fantasy points, over Derek White 27 fantasy points, and Keldon Johnson over 27 fantasy points. And in the last game of the slate, or in the next game, I'll give you my official pick to pair with Keldon Johnson, but you can add it to the 5 pick if you want as well. But if you guys do want to tell me, I do provide my plays for completely free in these videos every single day. So if you guys sign up and deposit using code Taylor, TAYLOR, you guys will receive a 100% match bonus up to $100. And, I'm giving you my information out here for completely free. And I've been very, very successful with Prize Picks since this NBA season has started. Have withdrawn quite a bit of money. So it's been a good time over here. Yesterday, we barely missed because Jalen Brown, the second unit was playing really well. So it kept Jalen Brown off the court and he barely missed. But Al Horford and Jaren Jackson Jr. got there easily. But yeah, just back to DraftKings. I mean, Jakob Poeltl, he's back to playing 34 minutes a game like we saw before his injury. He played 34 minutes last game. In the game before that, he was on pace to play 34 minutes, but the game ended up blowing out. So, Jakob Poeltl probably the best play on the entire slate, in my opinion, gets the #1 front court matchup against the Washington Wizards. Absolutely love Jakob Poeltl today. Going to be locking him into pretty much every single lineup I have tonight. Move over to the Portland Trailblazers versus the Utah Jazz. A 223 over under. The Jazz are currently 7.5 point favorites. Norman Powell is out for the Trailblazers today, which means that Nasir Little is likely going to start in his place. Nasir Little has been very, very good this year, has had a ton of coach speak from Chauncey Billups, and now he gets the opportunity to be in a competitive game in the starting lineup and should play 30-plus minutes. We've seen him play 30-plus minutes in these games that Norman Powell has already missed this year, and he's only $3,500. I think he's the best value play on the entire slate as of right now. And then Damian Lillard, I think he's one of the better spend-up options at $9,500. Probably not getting to too much of him over on DraftKings. We'll have to wait and see. But I do love Damian Lillard over here on Prize Picks, and that's going to be my second official play. So it's going to be Keldon Johnson over 27 fantasy points, and it's going to be Damian Lillard over 39.5 fantasy points. The minutes should be there. He should play 38 minutes in this game, assuming it's competitive. And he attacks the Utah Jazz where they have weaknesses on defense on the perimeter as opposed to in the paint. So I think Damian Lillard easily hits over 39.5 fantasy points. If you hit the over Keldon Johnson and the over Damian Lillard over here on Prize Picks, you can 3x your money if you if you power play that. So, if you deposit $100, you get $100 match instantly in your account. So you have $200 to play with. You play $200 on that play and that hits, that's $600. So I'm feeling really, really good about that tonight. Move over to the Utah Jazz. Royce O'Neal is questionable. Joe Ingles started in place of Royce O'Neal last game. He ended up playing 26.5 minutes, but the game ended up blowing out, so he didn't play in the fourth quarter. Rudy Gay ended up playing 23.5 minutes off the bench with no Royce O'Neal. So, we have to monitor the situation of it. Unfortunately, this game starts 2 hours after lock, so we're probably not going to get that news until closer to the lock of this game. But if Royce O'Neal were to miss this game, Joe Ingles would likely start in the be in the starting lineup again. He would be one of the best value plays at 4,100, and Rudy Gay would be a very, very good contrarian pivot off of him. He has been very, very active, like he has most of his career when he's coming off the bench. We saw it a lot with the Spurs. He's kind of just like the offense off the bench, which is kind of weird because he's playing next to Jordan Clarkson. They kind of counteract with each other. But my favorite play from this team is definitely going to be Donovan Mitchell. Portland has been one of the worst defenses in the league. They have had the third worst defensive rating in the entire NBA. They brought over Chauncey Billups to fix the defense. Nothing has really changed. And Donovan Mitchell has nearly a 35% usage rating so far this year. He's priced down to $8,100, mostly due to the fact that they are constantly in blowouts, and so he's almost never playing in the fourth quarter. So if we get a full complement of minutes out of Donovan Mitchell in a game that should be competitive, I absolutely love him at $8,100. Might be my favorite spend up option given his price at $8,100. Before I get to the last game, let's also talk about the news I just got. Zach LaVine is now listed questionable with an illness, so a midday downgrade. So that means that he woke up and he's just not feeling very well. So I think there's a pretty good chance that Zach LaVine ends up missing that game. And if that is the case, then DeMar DeRozan, Vucevic, and Caruso, just thinking out loud, probably becomes, three of the best plays on the entire slate. They were already great plays in the best matchup in the league. So, just got some reiteration from Fantasy Labs that he is still questionable. So need to monitor that situation, but we should get that news ahead of lock. I'll talk about it in my stream a bit later. Move over to the New Orleans Pelicans versus the Los Angeles Clippers at 210.5 over under. The Clippers are 8-point favorites. Money coming in heavily on the Pelican side. The Clippers opened at 9-point favorites. The Pelicans are going to be without Zion Williamson, who should be returning somewhat soon. And then Brandon Ingram, he's priced down to $7,500 now. Now his true shooting this year is down to 50.8% as opposed to over 58% in the previous 2 years. The volume has been there for him. It just, he has not been very efficient. So eventually his true shooting numbers from the entirety of his career, his numbers are going to start moving towards that. I don't think he's going to be on the decline. He's still a very, very young player and improving. So Brandon Ingram entirely too cheap at $7,500. I think Josh Hart, Devontae Graham, Graham's probably going to play around 30 minutes if this game can stay close. Josh Hart going to play mid to high 30s minutes if this game can stay competitive. They're priced down pretty significantly. If you're trying to stack this late game, you can go with Brandon Ingram, Hart, and Devontae Graham and bring it back with a guy like Paul George. The Clippers are going to be without Kawhi Leonard, Nicholas Batum, and Jason Preston. Pelicans have the 5th worst defensive rating in the entire NBA. It's a pace-up spot for them as well. Paul George is probably the safest spend-up option at 10.2K just because we know he's going to play 36, 38 minutes. Gets a great matchup. And he's really the only player on this team that is going to get consistent minutes. Reggie Jackson, I would say he was there, but 2 of his most recent games, his minutes have been everywhere because of bad play. And that's the case with this Clippers team. Outside of Paul George, they really do run a hot hand approach. So whoever's playing better is going to get the lion's share of minutes. So not really considering anybody outside of Paul George. But if you guys enjoyed this video, would really appreciate it if you guys could drop a like. Subscribe if you haven't done so already. I will be live streaming at 5 p.m. Central Time, an hour before lock. I break down all the latest breaking news as well as answering as many questions as I possibly can. But I appreciate you guys being here. Best of luck tonight. And until next time, peace.